Summer League just ended for Darryn Peterson, and he looked incredible. I'm really excited to break it down for you today on this episode of Salt City Hoops. We're also going to get into a little Cody Williams and Ace Bailey talk and some little epilogue thoughts on Walker Kessler going to the Lakers. Today, Salt City Hoops. Come on in. Friends, welcome back to Salt City Hoops. I can't wait to tell you everything that I feel about Darryn Peterson and the trajectory of this Utah Jazz squad. This is going to be such a fun topic to talk about. Get into some other topics later as well, but we got to start with the obvious, which is Darryn Peterson's Summer League is likely coming to a complete end after 4 games in Summer League. And look, he's a star, and we can get into all of the reasons I feel that way and why this is just a nails pick by the Utah Jazz. Frankly, every team in the top 4 appears to have nailed their draft pick, and players have gone exactly where they probably should have. But Darryn Peterson in particular had me a little nervous going into the whole thing, and a lot of people nervous. I mean, the entire pre-draft process was yes, but, right? Like, it's more like we understood his talent and who he could be and what his trajectory could look like. But there were all these mysteries as to, well, is he an on-ball player, off-ball player? How was he used as Kansas? What is this cramping thing at Kansas? What is this mental disposition? What is this mystery of Darryn Peterson? And ultimately, I'm going to take the mea culpa to say, like, I was one of the more scared ones. I loved his talent, and I just believed in the strength of the reliable floors of the other players, and I was worried about Darryn Peterson a little bit, and perhaps there are some long-term, still some open question marks, but oh my God, friends, we walk away from these Summer League games and just thinking, star, just a total star talent, and surprised us in some ways that we hadn't anticipated going in. Learned a lot about his skill set, learned a lot about his personality, both on and off the court. I think this is a way, way, way different player than a lot of us thought, including myself, right? But a lot of us thought very differently of Darryn Peterson, the nebulous draft prospect, compared to what we have experienced over the past couple weeks. Again, on and off the floor, I think we're just seeing way, way, way more of who Darryn Peterson is than I think we ever had before. And he's stunned. He was amazingly successful in Summer League. And he played 2 games in Salt Lake City for the smaller Salt Lake City Summer League. He played 2 games in Vegas. And after his 2 Vegas games, which were a little bit of a step down from his 2 games in Salt Lake City, and we'll get into the specifics in a minute, I was surprised to see how many people were a little negative about Darryn Peterson's Vegas experience, especially, his first game was against AJ Devonsa, and the second game was against Keaton Wagler, and there was more negative than positive about Darryn Peterson after his Vegas experiences, and I don't understand it. I don't understand the negativity following the Vegas Summer League. If he didn't play in Salt Lake City at all and had 2 amazing games in Salt Lake City, we would have looked at his Vegas performances and been very encouraged, and really impressed with what he did in Las Vegas. Yet because he started out with such a bang in Salt Lake City, people are walking away like a little sour and disappointed. And I'm sitting there yelling at people look at what he's doing. And not just look at the statistics, which are also very good and weirdly underrated by people who are looking at the box score. Look at the numbers are also good, but the play-to-play maturity and performance and really acrobatic plays that he was making and good shooting that he was performing, it was, I've been surprised as to see a little bit of a negativity following the Las Vegas Summer League. So let's start into the actual statistics. So he plays 4 games, plays 28 minutes a game. Again, fewer minutes in Summer League. So we're going to talk about 28 minutes he's playing a lot of minutes compared to the rest of the team here. 43% from the field, 39% from 3. And I want to quickly nail down that 39% from 3, it includes almost all above the break threes. So he's shooting 39%, 9 of 23 from arc threes, and he only took 3 corner threes. He shot 1 of 3 on the corner threes. So already on that 39% from 3, 38.5%, they're all above the break threes, which are harder three-pointers to make. So very, very encouraged there. 77% from the line with the weird free throw rule of the Summer League was deploying where one shot counts for all of them. So you're going to have some weird statistics there, considering that players typically make the second more than they make the first. And then three rebounds, 5.5 assists, including 1 12-assist banger in his second game. 1 steal, 1.3 blocks over those 4 games. Had a couple games with 2 blocks. 4.5 fouls a game. We're going to talk about his 9-foul game against the Wizards. And 5 turnovers a game, including a pair of 8 turnover games, buttressed by a pair of 2 turnover games. 25 points per game. I'm not going to go into the entire history of all players, guard prospects, and what points they had throughout their entire summer league. But just want to point out, when we talk about turnovers and percentages and that sort of thing, Donovan Mitchell had 2 summer league games. We all remember, Donovan Mitchell had an amazing summer league, right, against Jason Tatum. Okay, so Donovan Mitchell had 28 points per game, but that was on 36% from the field. That was on 27% from 3. 2.5 rebounds, only 1.5 assists for Don. He had a lot of steals, right? He was most notable for getting and we thought this is the defensive prospect that we were seeing, what we drafted him to be, plus he's got these offensive capabilities. He had a lot, trucked up his steals in Summer League over 2 games. In over 2 games, he had 8 turnovers and 6 fouls. So way worse efficiency for Don in Summer League. And pretty much on par the turnovers and fouls. Darryn Peterson has a shade more turnovers and fouls than Donovan Mitchell did in those 2 games. These are small sample sizes. So we have to be really put into context of what happened in those games. But the percentages, you can at least, after 4 games, with the volume of shots he was taking, you can sort of get a profile of what kind of player is this right now. And for him, over 4 games, to shoot 39% from above the break threes on highly contested situations was very, very promising. Here are some playstyle things that I'm recognizing out of Peterson that I really am so excited to share with you. This is what we have going for. This is who he is. One of my main concerns, one of any detractor's concerns over Darryn Peterson, remember, I'm not a draft guy, I'm not a college basketball guy, I'm not going to sit here and pretend to be this is the concern I had of going all the way back to Kansas, and I'm certainly not a high school basketball junkie. But a lot of the criticism about Darryn Peterson, especially this, you got to watch the high school tape compared to the college tape. He wasn't showing what he was doing in college. Okay, well, one of the things that we were seeing in some of this college tape was I wouldn't call it a lack of explosiveness, but you never saw Darryn Peterson completely blow by a guy and totally Colin Sexton the defender and just race by him, wrong foot him, and get a cavern of separation with his defender. It always seemed against these college level defenders that he always just kind of always had them around. But he still had this really good efficiency in college. So you're wondering if he can't get separation, quote unquote, with these guys in college, what is he going to do in the NBA? Well, now I figured out that this is actually how he prefers to play. Whatever his athleticism level is right now going in, and he had one monster dunk against the Clippers last night. I think he's got very good athleticism. That was apparent, but what was kind of made my head tilt a little bit, what we should understand going forward, is he has shades of the pre-draft analysis that we were looking at Luka Doncic coming out of his European experience, where Doncic was not blowing by guys, and all the detractors of Doncic coming out of his European performances before the draft were, he has no shot of athletically being superior to his defenders. How is he going to get a shot off? We're seeing today Luka Doncic have no separation on so much of what he does, yet he is able to use his skill and his guile and a lot of his strength, really, to get these open shots or make contested shots. He prefers living in that zone. Now, Darryn Peterson is quite a few inches shorter and lighter than Luka Doncic, so he doesn't get the strength element of it. I think Luka Doncic is right now, I think above where I see Darryn Peterson ending up. But like, we're talking, Luka Doncic is a future Hall of Famer, right? So these comparisons are not light. But when I'm watching Darryn Peterson in Summer League, I'm watching a guy who prefers operating in the phone booth. He loves that tight window of space where the defender is always where Peterson wants him to be. And a lot of these college phenom type players who rely on a lot of athleticism and first step quickness, we saw this a lot with Dante Exum, their only hope is to blow by the guy and get open layups. And as soon as they're faced with contested shots or help defense, or they weren't able to actually blow by the guy as much as they wanted to, and they had to deal with the defender's length blocking their shot from behind, they struggle. Those types of players we have seen just not perform well. And it is immediately mature, exciting, thrilling to see that Peterson, who while he does have athletic gifts, he is someone who prefers operating in a window of, I'm going to have the defender on my hip at all times, the defender's going to get comfortable where he's at, and I'm just going to shoot my shot in a place that I don't mind having a guy being a foot, 2 feet, 3 feet away. I don't need my shots to be wide open. Now, I think it's clever to note that this is not a guy who invites Shane Battier contested shots with the hand in his face. That's not what he's inviting. In fact, he's more constantly in a position of controlling where he is on the floor, getting to his spots on the floor in a measured pace, and typically only taking shots when he feels like, I'm going to get a shot where I am going to be, I personally, nobody else is, but I personally am going to be unbothered by this contest. And if I can get a shot off in a way that I prefer, the ball's going in the basket. And so when I look at a lot of situations like Mikal Brown Jr., who I'm excited to see a little bit more of in Summer League, this isn't a guy who's making preposterously tough shots with the 9 hands in his face and like, oh my God, he's going to be such an amazing tough shot maker in the NBA. And he certainly can make a lot of tough shots, but that's not his profile. Or Jordan Clarkson making a ton of difficult turnaround contested shots that only Jordan Clarkson can do. No, this is a guy who's inviting basically everyone to give a bad contest. It's so incredible. It's subtle watching his game and how he invites these types of defensive approaches to him where he's always under control. Always under control how he's inviting it. And one thing I'm interested to see going into the regular season is how he deals with paint contests from much better defenders than in Summer League. I think he was adequate shooting at the rim and shooting in the mid-range in Summer League. So he shoots 6 of 10 from at the rim, which is not great, but small sample size. You'd like it to be a little bit of, 60 is not bad. It's not great. It's not bad. It's okay. And he shot 11 of 21 from the paint outside of the restricted area. So in that, free throw line to the restricted area kind of zone. That's actually pretty good. 50% from that little short mid-range is floater range, right? And we saw him nailing runners and floaters, really, really, really controlled. He preferred to take, and they were open shots. They were great shots for him, where he's got these Tony Parker floaters and runners that he doesn't have to get all the way to the rim and invite heavy contests from 7-footers to get shots. So interested to see what his rim package will look like as the season progresses and if he struggles or succeeds there. But as far as his point of attack defenders that he was dealing with, always in control and inviting the guy to be on the hip that he wanted him to be on. He was losing guys insofar as the guys couldn't stay in front of him. And sometimes it's like watching magic happen. And Luka is one of those magicians that Shai Gilgeous-Alexander's like this. James Harden in his post-30s career is like this. The way that these guys manipulate defenders to be where they want them to be, whether it be eyes, whether it be dribble moves, with subtle feints left and right, they're not blowing by guys, getting to a spot and rising a wide open jumper. They're getting the defender where they want them to be. I keep repeating this point, but that's what Peterson was doing. And these are NBA level defenders. In his first game against Memphis, his primary defender was Cedric Coward. Darryn Peterson obliterated Cedric Coward, who is an all-rookie player who is known for his defense last year. And there were a couple plays where actually Darryn Peterson wrong-footed him and broke him away. There was a play against the Wizards early in the first quarter where, and it won't show up on the stat sheet, and I'm already forgetting the Wizards defender who's on a two-way, Jameer Watkins. Actually, might have a full contract with the Wizards right now, but he's on their summer league team. Good player for the Wizards last year. Not great. He's obviously a summer league kind of talent, but like he's an NBA guy. And now, first of all, Darryn Peterson picked up. Everyone's talking about Darryn Peterson committing 9 fouls against the Wizards. Well, he drew 9 fouls against Jameer Watkins. He's getting fouled. He's causing Jameer Watkins to foul him constantly. And including it early in the first quarter, it wasn't this aggressive crossover or crazy athletic move. He got Watkins going one way slightly, and Darryn Peterson just knew exactly where Watkins was going and just slightly pulled the ball back and moved back for a step back three-pointer, and Watkins had his ankles broken so bad that he injured himself. Just unbelievable play that isn't just hyper athletic. It is obviously very athletic, but it's more mental and control and ball handling skills than it is just blowing by a guy. Those are repeatable skills. Those are mature skills. Those are, hey, this guy's going to be doing this when he's 35 skills. Those are typically things that they have to learn over years and years and years of being in the NBA and getting that NBA level coaching. He's got it now. This maturity is unbelievable to me. So he's got all this ability to really operate in a phone booth, which is his preferred space. It's very... SGA's like this too. SGA's not a guy who's blowing by guys. He can if he gets you wrong-footed. He's got all the quickness to get to the rim, and I think Peterson is like this as well. But players who know how to control the defense and manipulate them to get the shots off, even with light contests, is just perfect. His three-point stroke is amazing. He's going to play so well with Keontae George. Keontae George is going to play so well with Darryn Peterson. Lowry and Jaren Jackson are going to play so well with this kid. Just unbelievable control of the defense. Like I mentioned, his floater game is on point. Already NBA efficiency from floater range. That's going to be terrific. I'm interested to see how he's going to deal with 7-footers at the NBA level, who are a lot more mobile, right? 7-footers who can come out to floater range and contest those floaters and recover. I think his passing game, let's talk about that, because that was kind of one of my other things, like, is this a guy who actually can play with Keontae George as like you're both actually plus passers? And once again, I'm sitting there with my jaw dropped with like, this is not the guy that was sold to us. He has a natural predisposition to moving the ball to the next guy. This was not a ball hog summer league for Darryn Peterson by any stretch of the imagination. And I'm going to get into how he was being defended in a minute. But his passing ability was really advanced, and he had a natural predisposition to moving the ball to players. He has that 112 assist game. And it's not like he had 0 assists the other games as well. He had 2 assists, 12 assists, 3 assists, 5 assists. I actually think his Clippers game was really underrated. The team got blown out, and the team generally looked like garbage. But I thought Peterson had a very underrated game with the 5 assists and 2 turnovers. But his Memphis game, 12 assists, 2 turnovers. He's getting rebounds, and he's either getting the rebound or the big man's getting a rebound, immediately handing it to Peterson, and Peterson is whipping outlet passes like prime Kevin Love. And he's connecting on them. Or he's connecting on them and the guy's dropping it. Peterson had 8 turnovers his first game against Atlanta. I think 4 of those turnovers, by my count, were passes that were dropped. And sometimes when a player drops a pass, it's not always the receiver's fault. Sometimes it is like, hey, you kind of threw it at a weird angle, or you threw it unnecessarily too hard. It's hard to really assess that in the moment. But these were 8 turnovers that I don't think he earned all of those turnovers. This is a guy who was very, very effective at knowing where the next pass should be. He was often the smartest player on the floor. Sometimes he would get frustrated when a player was not where he thought that they should be, and they often weren't. And these are all guys who met each other yesterday, so you can't expect a ton of sophistication here. That's also another reason why, like, if anyone's like detracting this guy for 5 turnovers a game in Summer League, he doesn't know these guys. They don't know him. Let's put him in a situation with actual NBA players after a full training camp, and let's see what happens with his turnovers per game. I'm not exactly going to be alarmed at him having 8 turnovers when he's throwing the ball to Orlando Robinson, right? Or who is the source of my ire? Eric Dixon was a weird ball hog. He's a 25-year-old rookie out of Villanova, 5-year college player, and I don't think he was a source of a lot of the drop balls, but he was talk about ball hog. That was one of our ball hogs. Oh yeah, our friend Jonas Idu out of Arkansas, big 6'11", 7 foot, huge dude, decent defensive presence, but he couldn't catch a ball to save his life a lot of the time. And there was one other player that received my ire. I forget who it was, off the top of my head. But Orlando Robinson and Jonas Idu were some of my immediate issues coming out, as far as how they were able to make Peterson look bad from time to time. Non-finishing plays, Darryn Peterson would make a ton of passes to players like Dixon and Idu and Orlando Robinson, and the ball just didn't go in the basket. A lot of passes around the perimeter that weren't going in the basket. And his passing game was way more advanced than I thought it to be. I was expecting, to put a finer point on the passing thing, I was expecting a player in Summer League with his pedigree and his draft profile to be a ball-hogging type of player who is going to shoot 28 times a game and make a few nice passes, but otherwise, like, this is a guy who's just going to be dribbling up the court, taking a few screens at the top of the arc, pick and roll-esque type situations, and just bomb 1,000 threes. He's going to shoot 10 threes a game in Summer League and just be a bomber. Instead, he averaged 6.5 threes attempted per game. In the Clippers game, he only shot 1 of 3. And some of those threes were pretty tough. Like I mentioned, these are 39% from above the break. Is no small shakes. Instead, he was constantly playing within the offense. And by the second half of the Grizzlies game, which was the second game they played, and for the entirety of the Wizards game and the entirety of the Clippers game, the defenses were sending 2 at him. The entire time. So it's not like every time that Utah would set some sort of basic big man screen for him at the top of the arc, he would take the screen, and the defense was immediately sending 2 guys at him. And he was pretty effective at getting out of those and passing it, moving the ball along to the next situation. There were times where another player was bringing the ball up the court, like a Cody Williams type. We're going to talk about the other guys at Summer League in a minute. Like if Cody Williams would bring the ball up the court, Darryn Peterson would start in the corner, take a screen from an Ace Bailey or something like that, and come up to catch the ball from whoever was bringing the ball up the court. And as soon as Darryn Peterson caught the ball on the wing, which is where that pass was given to him, 2 guys immediately on him. 2 guys immediately. Guys, this is a guy getting double teamed in Summer League. Are we kidding? I'm not trying to be, that's not a Devin Booker, like, why are you doubling me during training camp or whatever comment, if you remember that one. This is more like, he was so effective in the first 2.5 games of Summer League that the defenses just said, all right, here's what we're doing to win this game. Because these teams are trying to win. They're trying to beat the other team. as soon as Darryn Peterson gets the ball, we're going to double team. We're going to make these other players beat us. And there are some questions as to the efficacy of the rest of Utah's Summer League roster, besides Darryn Peterson. I have some compliments. I have some detractions to mention for the other Summer League players, but the Utah's Summer League roster doesn't look it particularly strong, but that's okay. We're not trying to, win too many here. And as I mentioned, Darryn Peterson is going to be shut down for the rest of Summer League, so it's not like we have to worry about, the Utah Jazz won't have a deep Summer League run, so we're gonna have fewer Darryn Peterson experiences. No, they're just gonna shut him down. Let's move it on. There was a quick moment in the Clippers game last night where a Clippers guard defender got shoved into Darryn Peterson's hip, and Peterson was noticeably limping the rest of the game. So I think that guy he had 4 good Summer League games, shut it down, get ready for training camp, get to know your teammates in July and August. And so his passing, like I said, I think he was passing out of double teams effectively. He was passing out of pick and roll situations really effectively. And the entire time he has the ball, he does have a disposition to making the right pass in the read here, but he is constantly reading as like it really dovetails nicely with what I'm saying about his scoring package as well. He's got the defenders constantly where he wants them to be, and so he's always deciding, all right, do I have teammates who I can manipulate into open shots, or do I have my own open shot? This is a mature basketball player. He's not polished, right? There's going to be so many years of polish ready to go, but this is a ready-made player right now to contribute right now. Some of the turnovers against the Wizards, he had 3 offensive fouls against the Wizards. So not only does that contribute to his 9 fouls that he committed, you get 10 fouls in Summer League, by the way. It contribute to his 9 fouls, but those are also turnovers. And all 3 of them were not questionable calls from our Summer League officials. So if I'm being charitable, I would take all 3 of them away. But even if I'm being less charitable, I wouldn't say that all 3 of them were quite deserved. So I didn't have a problem at all with some of the quote-unquote negative statistics. Having high turnovers, as any fantasy basketball junkie will tell you, high turnovers is a good thing for usage, for learning the game and everything. And it was, I joked with a friend on Blue Sky that the bad decisions that we were seeing, again, I was expecting a ball handling or a ball hogging bad decision type of guard right away because that's kind of his profile. And we're going to have to shape him into something pristine and exquisite. No, he's starting from a way more mature place than I thought. But I was joking that in each one of these 4 games, I believe his first or his second shot, he took a dog shit, horrible contested shot as his first shot of the game in each one of the 4 of them. It was either his first or his second shot, but he always started the game with a little bit of jitters and just jacking up dog shit for one. He got 1 bad attempt in each one of the 4 of them, and then it was just all maturity from there, which was really, really cool for me to see. I kind of thought that was funny. And as far as all of his turnovers, watching him, I've watched all these games twice because I'm upset. I'm a sicko, and I've watched all these games twice, and the amount of bad passes, like Darryn Peterson, this was your fault. You shouldn't have done that. So if he's committing 20 turnovers over these 4 games, the amount of bad passes, or he would get stripped from ball handling, like dribble off his foot, or just poor Darryn Peterson mistake, pure Darryn Peterson screwed up mistakes, was about 7. And the rest of them, I mentioned the offensive fouls, I mentioned his teammates dropping balls, they're all guy figuring out the NBA. Or, to put it in lawyer parlance, contributory negligence. Not all his fault. Maybe he wasn't perfect, but these are not things that I would expect them to be issues when he's playing with more competent basketball players and as he learns more about the NBA. This is just not a concern. The 9 fouls were funny, and he had 4 fouls against the Clippers. 3 of his 4 fouls against the Clippers were fouling Keaton Wagler on jump shots. And he was just 3 or 4 inches away from not fouling in each of those situations. So that's all that can be quickly coached away, right? But that leads into another positive thing. I'm assuming a player of this archetype is going to come in and be a useless defender. And I don't want to say blown away because I think I've already said that, but I was wildly impressed with his defensive acumen and his defensive maneuvering. The number one thing that sticks out to me, which has been a thorn in my side, friends, since Quinn Snyder era, like the beginning of the Quinn Snyder era, when you have Rudy Gobert back there protecting the paint. Even before the Jazz were like 1 seed quality, like when they were kind of up and coming in the Quinn Snyder era, this has been something that's bothered me for forever, is the Jazz have had no players capable of navigating screens. And the Jazz backcourt is just constantly filled with guys that when you screen them, they stick to them like a glue trap. Bam, magnet. And it takes them, you can count the seconds on your watch how long it takes for them to get out of the screen. And unless you're switching it, it's game over for your defense. And this has not been a Utah squad that has been very amenable to a switching style of defense, because then you end up having a ball handler going against Kyle Filipowski on the perimeter, and then you're cooked in a different way. So switching is okay if you are intentionally doing that as a personnel decision, but what you really want is to have a cadre of backcourt players that can at least get around a screen at a decent level. Darryn Peterson's screen navigation, these are not stats you're going to watch, but if you go back and watch the tape, and I will note, these are worse offensive screen setters than he's going to see in the NBA. So maybe he'll play against NBA screen setters, and this will be a different story. But in this Summer League situation, I found his ability to slither and guile and jump around these screens set by the opposing offense I thought his skills in this department were really, really high. His recovery instincts were really, really high. He's had a couple situations where his ball handler is coming around a screen. He gets around the screen too, and maybe he's not still attached to the guy, but he would be kind of sulking behind the guy, and as soon as the guy rose up for a mid-range shot, he blocked a shot from behind. He did this twice in Summer League. As I mentioned, he had 5 blocks over 4 games. A 6th situation that wasn't credited as a block, he is defending in the right corner, defending a corner 3-point shooter, and the offense has a play set up for an alley-oop to their center. And Darryn Peterson slid over from his corner defensive position and swatted the alley-oop attempt away, deflected it at the rim. He went up man-to-man against a 7-footer and deflected the alley-oop attempt away. That is instinctual. That's putting your body on the line. And I got to give AJ DeBonce a lot of credit for being a little bit more active defender than we saw at Brigham Young University. But Darryn Peterson was also detracted as this guy has no defensive effort level. Like this, he's going to be a negative defender probably forever. And while you prefer DeBonce's defensive profile because he's a bigger guy and bigger guys do more things impactfully defensively, when I see things like Darryn Peterson hopping up to deflect an alley-oop attempt from a very far distance, by the way. This wasn't like, oh, he was kind of there and then all he had to do was jump. He made a timed decision from a fair distance away to cut in front of the diving big man for the alley-oop and deflect it away. It was a really, really, really impressive play. I'll try to find a clip of it and post it because I think it ended up going back to a Grizzlies player. I think it was the Grizzlies, maybe it was the Hawks. I know this happened in Salt Lake City. It was one of the first 2 games in Utah. It was, I think the offense got the ball back and made a basket, so it ended up just not kind of being a highlight to point at. But it was a really, really cool defensive play, and is kind of a microcosm of where I think Darryn Peterson is. So one of So the entire profile is great. That does lead into what I think are some really interesting interview moments or off-court moments into this. So one of the interviews early on is that between the first and second game, he mentioned, I have film with Will Hardy tomorrow to kind of go over the first game. And they talked about that film session afterwards. And they invoked Ed Reed, the Hall of Fame Raven safety, who is one of the smartest football players to have ever played. Bill Belichick has a famous clip noting how Ed Reed, or was it Peyton Manning or Bill Belichick, one of the two other smartest people involved in football forever, mentioned where a situation where Ed Reed completely fooled them on purpose. Like, Ed Reed is just one of those brilliant players, and one of my favorite players to watch for a long time. But Will Hardy was invoking Ed Reed's name with Darryn Peterson, saying, like, this is the mentality you need to deploy on defense. It was funny, as Darryn Peterson didn't know who Ed Reed was. I don't know if that's because he's not a football fan or because he's impossibly 19 years old. And oh God, friends, is it possible that a 19-year-old doesn't know who Ed Reed is? I don't feel like Ed Reed retired too long ago. Maybe we're all just getting so old. But invoking that sort of like, your brain is good enough to disrupt these plays from not just, this is my man and I'm just going to stick to him. I've been frustrated that we have these very fast, athletic backcourt players whose only skill seems to be kind of caring about their man that they're assigned to guard in the corner and not taking a little bit more license to mess the play up. I was really encouraged with Keontae George last year, who kind of developed the skill over time. George, still a bad defender, but I loved watching George learn where he could deploy a little bit more creative license on gumming up a play. Go mess some shit up. Get out there. Don't just have magnet eyes on your guy, and you certainly don't want to be ball watching, so then you lose your guy doing, back cutting on you. But if you're such a brilliant offensive player, you should have an understanding of the shape of the opposing offense and where that offense is trying to go, so that maybe you can jump in there and grab a hand and get a deflection. Peterson had a deflection that got sent out of bounds. No one said anything about it. It didn't get posted on Twitter. No one's talking about it. It doesn't go on the stat sheet. He disrupted an entry pass, or it was a perimeter pass coming off of a screen, because he knew he was in bad position, but he knew that's exactly where the ball handler was trying to go with it. So he lunged forward of it, got it off his fingertips, and sent it out of bounds. One other microcosm of a type of defender that I think he can be. So the slithering over screens combined with his defensive awareness, I think this is this is not Damian Lillard out there who's just going to be complete paper mache. I think if you get him in a 1-on-1 situation, he might struggle a little bit. He's not the biggest guy in the world. We haven't seen him tested quite so much on that. But those skills combined with some of the off-court things that he's mentioned in this last game at halftime, he got interviewed and they said, "Hey, can you talk? We noticed you had a couple blocks. Like, can you talk about what you're kind of bringing? Like, what is your mentality on the defensive end?" And his response was one word. He just said, "Kobe." That's it. I love that. Kobe Bryant, and this goes into where I'm going to close off with my Darryn Peterson comments here. As a Jazz fan, the reverence for Kobe Bryant, I think, can be annoying at times. And there are certainly situations where Kobe Bryant was taking on a little bit too much on his plate and produced some pretty grotesque performances. But he's an all-time great, stunning player who has a lot of stunning moments. Kobe Bryant was psychotic in a complimentary way. And I think defensively is where Kobe Bryant will always be underrated as to how, and Michael Jordan to an extent on this as well, these sort of psychotic players who care, even if they perform maybe in a different way, but like they care that much about defense as much as they do about offense, has led to all defense selections. And Kobe Bryant, bigger, longer than Darryn Peterson will ever be, of course. But for Darryn Peterson to just say, like, on defense, I'm being coached to be more like Ed. I don't know who Ed Reed is, but I'm going to be coached to be like him. And then my mentality is Kobe Bryant. That sort of never-ending psychosis to be great at something is so necessary on the defensive end. And where I think Kobe Bryant really had some of his best years was when he was really deploying that ferocity on the defensive end as well as the offensive end. And if Darryn Peterson this is where I'm coming out from his interviews after being drafted and everything, this is a player who is already a 27-year-old basketball serious person. There's been a lot of comments from people around him who said, like, oh, he's a very serious man. This is a 19-year-old, right? And we're kind of used to seeing Donovan Mitchell showing up to summer pool parties and Keontae George and his jovial attitude. And we got our Joe Ingles being a clown. Lauri Markkanen's kind of a sunny player. We had Walker Kessler, the constant joker on the team. Jaren Jackson Jr. is kind of like this cosmopolitan man about town. He's also got this big old smile, fun dude. Jordan Clarkson, had a lot of moments with him. We've been blessed with a lot of jovial, fun players with the Jazz for the past, 6, 7, 8 years. We haven't had any psychotic players. Just total, uncomfortably insane, obsessive basketball guys. Obviously, these guys are obsessed with basketball. It's like they work hard, they practice hard, that sort of thing. But we've heard like something about, Darryn Peterson's aloof personality. And then hearing him in these press conferences, he's not like this, all of a sudden he's the opposite. He's this jovial guy. But you immediately get the sense with his big old smile and the way he likes talking about basketball, the way he likes talking about his new puppy and training his new Doberman puppy named Denim. I love following players like off the court shenanigans too. So I follow his dog's Instagram account because sometimes you get to see fun little things that you wouldn't see from the formal media. You see a guy who is deeply serious about the idea of being great at basketball because of the gifts he was given. And that personality can be a weird fit in a college environment where it's all about the program, the college program, and Bill Self. And Bill Self is the institution, and you're just a guy passing through. You're just a one-year guy just passing through. We don't give a shit about you. You'll sell tickets next year, and then we're going to get a new crop of freshmen the next year. You ultimately don't matter. Your future greatness doesn't matter. This is always something I've always endeared myself, or what endears me about John Calipari, because Calipari has never made any shakes that he cares that the players, that their NBA success is just as important to him. And he's sitting there courtside, and he's got relationships with NBA players who never played with him. And he's a good college coach, brings in good recruiting classes, but I think he also cares about these guys going forward. He is great for the one and done era, I think, that we've had for many, many years now. Anyways, this deeply serious person asked to play a certain type of way, and with the cramping situations, probably caring more about like, well, what is my body doing? I need to be really in tune with my body to perform here. It's pretty apparent to me that he has the mentality of a future star. Like, this is a player who is going to be always working smarter, working harder at the things that he is aware that he needs to be great at doing. Those players are coachable at the NBA level because the good NBA coaches, they're aware of analytics. They're aware of what things work. They're aware of putting lineups together that kind of work together. Will Hardy's one of those A-level coaches. He knows what is going to draw the best out of his players and the best out of his lineups, and he knows what Darryn Peterson's future success is going to look like. I think that deeply serious demeanor of Darryn Peterson, which is not it doesn't mean he doesn't fucking smile. Like, he's a great personality that we're seeing in a lot of these interviews and such. It just has this Kobe Bryant-esque affect of psychotic, I'm gonna kill you energy. And it's so cool. It's so cool. Lakers fans, I get it. I get it. I get why Kobe Bryant would be so revered, and we just haven't had someone with that sort of energy on the Jazz in a long, 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 long time. And the Jazz made a great pick. I'm really excited about him. And the Summer League could not have gone better for him. And if you're detracting that he went 6 of 18 in 2 straight games for against the Wizards and the Clippers, and you're saying like, oh, AJ DeBonsa outplayed Darryn Peterson over 1 game, and so we're going to say like that was a bad game for him. You're saying he had 9 fouls, 8 turnovers. Watch the play-to-play stuff and everything that Darryn Peterson did well, and you're going to come away from that game a little bit more of a thinking like, oh, he really played great today. In this Summer League context, sure, he had a 25-12 game against Memphis and Salt Lake City, but we can't expect that in Summer League every single game. His passing was good, his defense was good, his shooting was outstanding. Like, this is a guy who's really going to succeed. There's going to be some things we're going to be interested in to see him going forward. Is he going to be a better... Is he can you rely on him to be an isolation scorer if he's not blowing by guys? If he's constantly manipulating entire defenses by using screens and getting to his spots methodically and whatever, is this a player that you can rely on to be a isolation end of the game scorer? Can he really finish amongst the trees against NBA level bigs who are a little bit faster, stronger, can jump higher, that sort of thing? We're going to find this stuff out. But his mental makeup, combined with what he was obviously able to do with a very mature basketball game and great shooting and good defense, this is a star. And I can't wait to see way more of it. Other guys in Summer League. So we know that we're going to have a lot more Summer League to talk about. I'll talk next week about our two-way guys. Tamar Bates, Blake Hinson, and Trey Alexander. Blake Hinson we know from last year, and Tamar Bates and Trey Alexander were signed a couple weeks ago as the Jazz second and third two-way players. They're probably going to play throughout the end of this Las Vegas Summer League, so I'll reserve my thoughts on those guys. But the two actual full roster players who did play in NBA Summer League with the Utah Jazz were Cody Williams and Ace Bailey. Ace Bailey's a quick one. He only played 1.5 games because he got over a couple games because he got injured. He went for an offensive rebound off of a free throw. Kind of got like a hit back stinger, and so he didn't finish that game and rested a couple games. And when he came back for the game against the Clippers, he was only able to play a little bit before the back kind of acted up, and they just held him out as a precaution. I'll be honest, he didn't look spectacular, but in the first game that he played, he was physically superior in a lot of ways, very, very, very fast, and really operated the offense well, dribbled the ball up the court just fine, set really good screens, and had some decent shooting moments. My main issue with Ace Bailey last year that we saw in the little glimpses that we saw him in Summer League this year, and I want to see what happens going forward, and I'll actually bring a through line back to Darryn Peterson here in a second, is I was very frustrated last year with, as much as I adore Ace Bailey. You can watch or listen, whatever, to all my comments on Ace Bailey. I think he's going to be a star. I think this is a future all-star player. My main detraction where he's at right now, that I'm hoping he can kind of be a little bit better at as he gets a little older and learns a little bit more skills, is Ace Bailey would pick up his dribble in the middle of the floor a lot, where he would actually have an advantage on his defender, and his body tells him, rise up and shoot. Or a defender would actually still be in front of him, and Bailey's reaction was not to kick the ball out or keep dribbling in, but rather stop everything you're doing, rise up and shoot. And sometimes he would pick up his dribble, and what he got better at later in the year, but we saw a little bit, kind of came back a little bit in his little Summer League moments, is at the end of the NBA season, he was a lot better at when he picked up his dribble. He would pick up his dribble and go into a shooting motion, all in one motion. And I don't care what the decision is. If you're able to do that all in one motion and get a wide open shot in the mid-range at his height and his skill level, that's a good shot. That's okay. And it's really difficult to find players who can do that. But at the beginning of his rookie season, we saw a little bit of Summer League, and again, just tiniest of sample sizes, is he would pick up the ball and come to a full stop. And now you're in a pivot situation where you're in the middle of the floor. What are you doing with it? And he's having to take tough contested turnaround fadeaways and that sort of thing. And there's got to be a lot more fluidity to that. What I'd love to see him going forward, is because he has the strength and the skill and the athleticism, is, first of all, don't pick up your dribble, but keep going through the guy. Figure out a way to keep the ball in your possession and go through defenders to the paint, because you have the rim finishing skills, the height and the athleticism, and the touch to draw fouls, to get layups, to do dump-off passes to the big in the lane. I think he's got more of those skills. I'm sick of seeing him pick up his dribble in the mid-range. We'll see what happens. He's only in his second season. This was a Summer League experience. Who cares? Move on. Just one small criticism that I want you guys to know, like, what am I thinking about? I'm just an idiot fan. I'm not a scout or anything like this. Just I like to talk, and you're listening to me. And then Cody Williams. Cody Williams is going to be a glass half full, glass half empty situation for a lot of people. And when you do the Spider-Man zoom out meme, and you add your glasses and you're looking at it, and you look at his statistics over these 4 Summer League games, you actually come away from it thinking, oh, that actually, that Summer League wasn't too bad. Over 4 Summer League games, he averaged 13 points, 53% from the field, 50% from 3. Didn't really get to the free throw line. He had 5 rebounds, 1.5 assists, almost 2 steals, and a full block a game. So in 4 games, like, that's small sample size. Let's actually count it, though, because volume's important. So 10 shots a game in his 4 Summer League games. That's a healthy amount of shot attempts. He had 10 3-point attempts over 4 games. That's healthy. He averaged 30 minutes a game. So 2.5 3-point attempts over 30 minutes. You want that to be a little higher for a player of his archetype, but that's okay. And he shot 50% from them. Like Darryn Peterson, they were almost all wing threes. So he goes 3 of 5 from the right wing, 1 of 2 from the top of the arc, 0 of 2 from the elbow, or the elbow area of the arc, and then 1 of 1 from the corner, left corner. So 4 of 9 for mid-range threes. Again, tiny sample size. What can we do here? But so the numbers look good. Good scoring, good efficiency. And his defense has some numbers on it, and he had some good defensive moments. But the bad moments, and I'm a glass half empty guy on Cody Williams, so this is coming from a place of I'm biased negative against Cody Williams, so if you have positive thoughts on him, note that this is coming from a place that I just don't feel great. In this last Summer League game against the Clippers, I just mentioned all those good averages. Well, against the Clippers, he goes 0 of 2 from the field, 0 of 1 from 3, 2 rebounds, 1 steal, no block, 3 turnovers, and 0 points. 0 points for a third-year player in Summer League who played 23 minutes. Only getting up 2 field goal attempts. I thought the Jazz non-NBA players, like the Dixons and the Orlando Robinsons and such, I think they played incredibly selfishly against the Clippers. It was really weird to see. And I don't think like Cody Williams, we got froze out or whatever. But it is indicative of the main criticism of Cody Williams for his not only his NBA career thus far, but also who he was in college. Whereas if he's not directly involved in the play, he's not there. He's a complete wallflower, not involved in anything. And unless he is actively told, bring the ball up the court, or this play is designed for you, or you have to be an important part of what we're doing offensively, you just don't hear from him. And then when you do hear from him, his 1 3-point attempt, he shot it from the above the arc from the left. It didn't even hit the square on the backboard. It was long and to the left by like 1.5 feet. And it made a thump off the backboard. It was a pull-up 3 against the defender, but it wasn't the best contest in the world. Like, Cody Williams actually had a little bit of a shake and got a 3-pointer off, and it wasn't even close. Against the Wizards, if you watch the AJ DeBonce's best summer league highlight, which was a thunderous dunk over the entire Jazz front court, it starts with DeBonce, not a great dribble move, not even the greatest first step quickness in the world. He just gets Cody Williams, who's guarding him one-on-one, gets him wrong-footed, sends Cody Williams just taking one huge step the wrong way, and DeBonce just running down the lane with the ball to just dunk on the entire Jazz defense. Cody Williams' bad moments are shocking to me. Just genuinely shocking. And he keeps getting lauded for, he's got some of the best defensive IQ on the team. Will Hardy says he's going to make his name in the NBA as a defender. That's great. And it seems like in what we saw at the end of the regular season last year with Cody Williams that was encouraging was Cody Williams never, ever messes up a rotation. I'm using superlatives. Obviously, there's going to be a time or two you can pull up a clip or he screwed up a rotation or something like that. He does have a really, really good feel over when to switch. He probably is really good at understanding scouting reports. It's like, hey, this guy prefers to go left. This guy prefers to go right. This is how we're going to react to screens. This is how I react to this player setting a screen versus that player setting a screen. This is, I understand the opposing team's playbook. I understand like where this play is going to go and maybe where I can make an impact. He's got really good feel on that style defensively. But I've never really felt like he's any sort of impact one-on-one defender when it matters. And if his NBA skill is defensive execution, I'm wondering where the replacement is for that. I don't think that's a skill that you have to hunt the far corners of the earth to find. The Jazz just signed Josh Okogie on a 2-year, $12 million deal, second year non-guaranteed or team option, I forget which. Either way, team control in the second year. Okogie's he's been on 1-year contracts for a while now. Known as a good defender, good team defender, good individual defender. Can't shoot at all. You're going to say, Mark, look at his 3-point percentage. Yeah, watch the threes that Josh Okogie takes to get those 3-point percentage up. He shoots pretty exclusively corner threes at a 36 or 37% clip. And he shoots, when he does shoot above the arc, there's not a soul within 10 feet of him. And in fact, whenever he does get the ball with like a little bit of space at the top of the arc, he's very rarely shooting those shots. So Josh Okogie is a good shooter. He's actually improved from being a total non-shooter to just a bad shooter. So that's notable. Josh Okogie is a much more valuable player than Cody Williams is at this point because he has a lot of those other skills, strength. He's got the team defense. He's got the isolation defense skills in spades. Good steals guy. And he's going to reliably do things offensively that Cody Williams cannot do right now. Cody Williams' best moments are also shocking. His dunks are legitimately frightful. They're great. He's also liable to, this happened in the Atlanta or Memphis game in Salt Lake City, he'll dunk it off the back of the iron and fall over. So he has great moments, and he has real skills. And I'm walking away from Summer League, and I know our Salt City Hoops friend, colleague, and fearless leader Dan Clayton does think that like there's a place for Cody Williams in the rotation, and his $7 million contract next year is useful to the team as a low cost control little bit of salary item that can say like, well, Cody Williams can have a defensive place in a rotation. I think the offense is too putrid. The turnovers, about 3.5 turnovers per game. He had 6 turnovers against Atlanta, and like I'm going to excuse Darryn Peterson on these things because he's a rookie kind of learning these things, and I mentioned the ways that I'm going to kind of give a pass over a lot of the types of turnovers that Darryn Peterson had. There's just no reason for year 3 Cody Williams to have 3.5 turnovers per game. And if you're saying, well, they're just trying to like explore the studio space with Cody Williams and give him offensive responsibilities that he never would have in the regular season, I'm not sitting there wanting him to get 6 turnovers against the Hawks in a summer league game. Like, this is year 3, man. Like, we shouldn't be at like, okay, he makes a bad pass off of a pick and roll, and you're kind of looking at that being like, well, he's just kind of learning the game. There are a lot of nasty turnovers for Cody Williams. There's probably going to be a place for him in the rotation during this long, arduous year where you're going to need wing defenders. Kogi's getting a little bit older. He's not super old, actually, but like I think Kogi's still in his 20s, actually, even though he's been around the NBA quite a long time. There's going to be a place for Cody Williams in an NBA rotation this year. I just feel gross about it, and I think other people can reasonably feel better about it. That's what I was kind of mentioning at the top of my whole Cody Williams thing is I think reasonable minds can differ about Cody Williams. I couldn't say that last year. Last year, I was fully out on anything to do with the Cody Williams experience. I think now, reasonable minds can look at his player type and say, there's still something there. Let's keep going. He is improving. He's getting better. He's gotten bigger. He's gotten stronger. Let's keep playing with this clay. I can understand that bet. I don't want to be on that side of the bet. Reasonable minds can differ on this. So if you're a pro Cody Williams player, I'm not going to sit here and like, you're wrong. Oh, whatever. There's so much basketball analysis these days that it's just, if you don't agree with me, you're just wrong. This is all conjecture and we're all having fun. I think there's so many areas of analysis and feel and vibe that you can say, even statistics, you can say, well, I don't think that statistic colorably explains what I feel about this player. I think there's so much more nuance in basketball that you'll see in not only mainstream media, but also other podcasts. I hope to bring a little bit more nuance to your day. So I think reasonable minds can differ right now about Cody Williams. I'm going to need a lot more from him over the regular season defensively, I think mainly to feel like it. And yeah, I hate to say it because I think shooting percentages of young players can be a little overrated. It's like, oh, can he shoot? Can he not shoot? But we do need it to be at, 33% or above on 3 attempts per 36. Instead of the ghastly numbers that it was last year. And he can't have any of these 0 of 2 over 24 minutes of play performances. He has to be a part of he has to find ways to contribute offensively. He had 0 offensive rebounds. Like, this team is going to need rebounding. He's tall. He can jump. Like, there's ways for him to contribute that if he is going to put up these sorts of performances like he had in the Clipper Summer League game in the regular season, that's not a playable player. October 31st is the deadline for the Jazz to decide on his 4th-year option at $7 million. So the Jazz have to make a decision this fall on if we have him on the roster next year. There could be more utility to declining that option and saying, you are now a $6 or so million expiring contract that we can bake into some trades. So, jury's out on Cody Williams. Not exactly the strongest summer league, but he did have 3 sort of solid games, good efficiency, some bad turnovers, and 1 disastrous game. We'll see. Last thing I want to talk about, just a little Walker Kessler epilogue. Trade was finalized last Wednesday. It took a long time to finalize the trade because I There was suspicion that both sides were looking to perhaps expand the trade, because the trade was announced before the deal could actually be consummated, because the NBA has a moratorium period where things can be discussed before the ink is actually put on the contracts and the trades and everything. So you can expand trades by using liberal salary matching rules, or in the Lakers case, perhaps expanding it to make better use of the cap space that they had on deck, because they signed some players using some exceptions. With LeBron James heading out of town, the Lakers have as much flexibility as you could possibly hope for. Well, nothing ended up happening. There were probably some discussions. We saw there was a situation similarly, though, with like the Grizzlies and the Pistons and the Mavericks, but they actually ended up consummating a 16 trade, which is incredible, but was really just an amalgamation of like 12 different transactions that all the teams just got in a conference call together and figured out, here's how we can maximize everyone's situation. And the Lakers and the Jazz ended up being a much more simpler situation. At the end of the day, they were trying, though. They tried for 3 days to perhaps expand it. They ended up not being able to. The Jazz ended up signing Jackson Hayes and Josh Okogie using the mid-level exception. So on Walker Kessler, the reason I wanted to provide a little bit of an epilogue is watching Darryn Peterson has me feeling more strongly about the Kessler situation. Darryn Peterson is going to be a valuable player right out the gate. Maybe not like a net positive winning player, because rookies rarely are. But one of the things you're so apprehensive about going into Summer League is, does our draft pick look like shit, or do they look great? And sometimes we approach a little bit too much of a binary, like, is he shit or is he good? And there's usually some nuance in the middle. Well, with Darryn Peterson, you don't have to be nuanced about it. He looks fabulous. He looks terrific. He's going to be an obvious star, and he's starting from a really good place. So with that, you have Ace Bailey, who looks great. You have Keontae George's extension coming up, but you have Darryn Peterson looking great. And you're looking at a situation where you only have a small window where both Ace Bailey and Darryn Peterson are going to be making pennies on the dollar for what they're actually going to be able to contribute. So I was more emphatic than I think most other people that I'm seeing talk about the Jazz, that the Jazz roster as it was constructed, with Kessler at the top, Lowry and Jaren Jackson Jr. as two of the very best forwards in the game, who we have not actually seen play not but 3 games together, or any games with Walker Kessler together, right? That threesome. Very little with Ace Bailey. Yet Keontae George getting better and better and better, and you got your sixth guy, but who could actually be a starter, in Darryn Peterson. Those 6 players, match it up against any other team in the Western Conference that doesn't play in San Antonio or Oklahoma City. Those 6 players, just because you're watching the Utah Jazz win 20 games, those 6 players haven't played together, let alone 2 of them at once, more than 2 of them at once, for any sort of legitimate period of time. Those 6 guys are, holy shit, that's actually a really good team. That's not a cute team with some success on the horizon. That is a good team immediately. And you put other players on the Jazz roster into more appropriate roles for their skill set. Isaiah Collier, I think he's going to be a really good backup point guard. Overextended as a starting point guard last year, and they still had to shut him down because he was too good. Really good backup point guard. Svi Mykhailiuk, great little bench gunner, who actually learned a lot about being a more connected offensive type of player. Really like what he's doing. Kyle Filipowski, great bench big. Don't want him starting at center, but put him in a more appropriate role. Bring back Yusuf Nurkic, one of the best backup centers in the league you can have, but he's in a more appropriate role. Bryce Sensabaugh, way overextended, dribbling off of his foot as a lead creator for an offense. But you put him as also perhaps your best bench gunner, and all of a sudden this is a 10-man lineup. You're thinking, boy, the Jazz are deep. Boy, the Jazz are deep. And so I was really, really, really excited to see what this team looked like. And because you're already paying $50 million to Lowry Marketing, you're already paying $50 million for Jaren Jackson, I thought this was a year that management and Ryan Smith should say, bring back Kessler and let's have a go at this. Immediately. Not, let's see what we have and we'll go into next year. I thought this team was immediately amazing. The Jazz won the transaction with the Lakers. The Lakers got what they wanted, but they paid a huge price to do so. The Jazz got the absolute best possible deal that we're going to get, and the Lakers overpaid, both in dollars and draft picks for Walker Kessler. They willingly did so, and I don't think they would take back the trade, and I think they're going to look pretty interesting with Luka and Walker Kessler. That's a good fit. So the Jazz won the trade. They don't have to pay $32 million for Walker Kessler, who is going to be their sixth most important player. But it does make me feel a little wistful about what could have been a great season this year. Now you slide Jusuf Nurkic as your starting center. Jury's out right now, and if you start Ace Bailey or Jusuf Nurkic, I have a famous statement to say that the number 2 pick will have to come in and blow us away to take the starting spot over Ace Bailey. Well, Darryn Peterson's kind of on his way to doing that. But that was with Walker Kessler in the fold, and I do think that without Walker Kessler, it does become more of a question of do you start Jusuf Nurkic, who is not nearly as good of a player or has nearly as much panache as Ace Bailey? So what I think ends up happening is you start Jusuf Nurkic and Ace Bailey does come off the bench, but I think there's going to be more closing lineups than not that have Ace Bailey as a starter, as a closing player, and Jaren Jackson Jr. is playing the 5. Because when you get into the late game situations where you have a timeout every possession as you get to the into crunch time, it's okay to not necessarily have as big of a rebounding issue consistently. You can sub in and out too as well. So I think you're going to see a lot of Jaren Jackson Jr. closing at the 5 moments. I don't know if he's going to start that way. But now without Kessler, I have to think about what is the path towards a Jazz championship. I thought it included Walker Kessler. That's why I'm kind of sad about it. A path to a Jazz championship, I thought, included Walker Kessler. And now, without Walker Kessler, I just don't think they have a championship path right now. I'm not talking about this year, but what is the path to get there? Because your path to a championship cannot involve Jackson Jr. at the 5. Pretty emphatically. He's so good that he can give you those 5 minutes from time to time, but your championship path probably doesn't include that. And you're going to take Keyonte George and Darryn Peterson and Ace Bailey and say, okay, are you our 3 most important players? Is it Lauri Markkanen and Jaren Jackson Jr. as our 2 most important players? How are you ranking the path to a championship with those 5 guys? And the way I see it is that the only player who's untouchable in this respect is Darryn Peterson. And I don't have an answer. You can look around and what are the other center options in the league? Well, maybe this ends up being in 2 or 3 years that you're packaging Lauri Markkanen's next contract and the first round picks you got from the Lakers into a player that plays marvelously with Jaren Jackson Jr. and Darryn Peterson. You extend Keyonte George this summer on hopefully not the max, but now you have financial flexibility under the second apron and such. Again, I don't care about Ryan Smith's wallet, but once you get over the second apron, your team gets a little bit more limited. I have some thoughts on this in another episode, perhaps. But you have flexibility to make a mistake on Keyonte George's extension. What if you extend him at $45 million a year, whatever I don't have it handy, whatever his max value is, and that ends up being not what you should have done with Keyonte George? Well, now you have draft assets and other ways to get out of that situation. Or, the thing I love about Keyonte is he may not, even if he falls short of being a $45 million a year player, I'd rather have a $30 million a year player who's making 40 than not have that player at all. I can find surplus value around the margins. If I have to overpay Keyonte George by a little bit, that's completely okay for the Jazz. If I have to overpay Keyonte George by a lot, that becomes, if he's overpaid by $20 million for what he actually provides, that becomes more of a problem. But our surplus value right now is in Darryn Peterson and Ace Bailey's rookie contracts. And I felt like while they're still on rookie contracts, paying Walker Kessler $35 million, it would be shitty, but like you could get by with it. And in exchange, you're gunning for a top 4 playoff seed this year. What is the path to that next year? I think they're going to be a competitive, fun team. I think Yusuf Nurkic still has stuff in the tank to help keep the season going. The Jazz signing Jackson Hayes. Interesting signing. Jackson Hayes, not exactly he has domestic violence convictions on his record. Not exactly a player we loved seeing that signing. But his on-court fit has been ballooned because of playing with Luka Doncic for a couple years. He actually got Slovenian naturalization, so he could play on the Slovenian national team to play with Luka Doncic. He's got one of the highest effective field goal percentages in the league because, again, he's just finishing alley-oops from Luka Doncic. Still wildly athletic, can provide some backup center stuff. We'll see. This is a team that can contribute now, but I don't see immediately. They have a missing piece towards getting a title, and that is a center. They are missing a center that can play alongside Jaren Jackson Jr. Or 2 years from now, you lose Triple J to something. You're doing something else. We traded for him. Well, now we're going to trade him away because Lauri Markkanen is actually who we really value as driving win here. The Lauri, Ace, Keontae, Darren fit. Like they have a lot of options going forward as to who's going to be the odd man out. But in order to get that starting center, that legitimate 5, the Jazz are going to have to make a sacrifice. Just like the Lakers just did. The Lakers just made a sacrifice of 2 firsts and 2 swaps and $33 million a year. Overpay for Walker Kessler. That was the sacrifice they made. Okay, the Jazz are going to have to make the same sacrifice in a couple years. What this does allow the Jazz to do, though, is, and this is where I think this was a little bit responsible. I know I've been very effusive as to, and many people will tell me that I'm completely over my skis over what the Jazz could have been this year. But so the responsible response to that is, well, now without Kessler, now you can actually test Lauri. You can test Keontae. You can test Ace Bailey. You can test Darryn Peterson. Put them in an actual goddamn winning environment for once and actually pressure test them. Let's get Lauri in his first playoff series before we say, okay, yeah, we're going to max out Keontae George and we're going to give $35 million a year to Walker Kessler. How about you actually test it for once instead of just theorizing as what it could be? And there's responsible virtue in that. I will admit. So sad to see Walker Kessler go. Hope he enjoys Los Angeles. He just got engaged to former Miss America from Alabama, actually. And I hope he has a wonderful life. A little bit of sour grapes on the way out, but he's well liked by the media. He's well liked by people, and it'll be an interesting path forward. What makes the sour grapes just taste so much sweeter is just realizing that Darryn Peterson is the engine of the star future of this team. And just like Donovan Mitchell coming in, we have a team. What made Donovan Mitchell's rookie season fabulous for us, I know we lost Gordon Hayward, and it would have been great to have Hayward with part of this whole thing, but you have Derek Favors, you have Rudy Gobert, you're getting, Joe Ingles wasn't quite good yet, but he was getting up there, and you bring in Ricky Rubio, right? This is a team that was ready to compete, so Donovan Mitchell's successful rookie season was in context of a very successful team, and I think Darryn Peterson's, he's going to have a fabulous rookie season. He's the clubhouse leader, I think, right now for Rookie of the Year, because DeBonce is also coming into a situation with a bunch of ball hog situations with Trae Young and Anthony Davis and things. Going to be very interesting to see DeBonce kind of navigate that and how much utility he's going to have on that Wizards team that is really funky and bad right now. The Jazz have a need for Darryn Peterson, even if he's not the best player on the team or anything like that, and he's not going to have crazy high usage because we're going to have usage out of Lauri and Keontae and Jaren and everything else. But we need another high-level ball handler and shooter, and Darryn Peterson's going to immediately provide that. So he's, I think, still currently the clubhouse odds leader for Rookie of the Year. Can you believe we have a clubhouse leader for Rookie of the Year? And that just hit me and just made me smile. And that's what I mean. The sour grapes taste sweeter because if we can wash it down with a tall glass of Darryn Peterson. And as I mentioned, the glass is half empty with Cody Williams, so I'm not washing down anything with that. Just a nice tall glass of Darryn Peterson, man. He's psychotic, he's charismatic, he's wonderful. I think we have something incredibly special. My name is Mark Pereira. This has been Salt City Hoops. I hope you have a fabulous time. Enjoy the rest of the Las Vegas Summer League. Got some Jazz players like Blake Hinson and Tamar Bates and Trey Alexander that we're going to kind of take a look at going forward. And we have lots more summer content ready for you at Salt City Hoops. I love for all of you to listen in, and the folks who are watching, keep subscribing, keep liking, and kind of make sure to review us. Let's get more Jazz fans and NBA fans around here to hang out with each other. I'll respond to all the comments below. All right, have a good one.